Peiper, holder of the Knight's Cross with Oakleaves and Swords and one of the most famous, and some would say infamous, panzer officers of World War II, died pistol in hand, fighting his enemies to his last breath. The only problem with this picture is the fact that Peiper didn't die in World War II in such a manner, but in 1976, and was fighting for his life in his own living room. And even more bizarrely, that house wasn't in Germany, but in France. This is the story of the strange demise of one of the most famous soldiers of World War II, a Nazi poster boy and a fearsome and relentless warrior whose reputation was deeply sullied by war crimes and, of course, a long prison sentence. In this episode, we will look at who Joachim Peiper was. What was his war record? Why was he so famous? And what sort of mentality did he have? Joachim Peiper was born in Wilmersdorf, Germany on the 30th of January 1915, from a middle-class family. His father had been an officer in the German Imperial Army in Africa and in World War I served in the Ottoman Empire, or Turkey. After World War I, Peiper's father had been very active in Freikorps paramilitary groups, including taking part in the suppressing of the Polish Silesian uprisings of 1919-21. Joachim Peiper determined to become an army officer like his father. He had two older brothers. The middle brother of the three, named Horst, joined the SS and served as a concentration camp guard in the SS Totenkopfverbande, later serving in the 3rd SS Panzer Division in France in 1940. Horst Peiper died in Poland in June 1941, believed to have taken his own life due to his homosexuality. Peiper's eldest brother, Hans Hasso, was mentally unstable and also attempted to end his own life. He eventually died of tuberculosis in 1942. Joachim had joined the SS in October 1933, serving in the cavalry branch. He was promoted and in 1934 came to the attention of Reichsfuhrer SS Heinrich Himmler himself. Sent on a leadership course, some rather unsavory aspects of Peiper's personality were noted by his instructors. He was egocentric and constantly name-dropped his relationship with Himmler. SS psychologists concluded that Peiper was a difficult man. As a subordinate, he might prove troublesome, and as a superior, probably arrogant. However, he wasn't binned, probably due to his relationship with Himmler, and in March 1936, Peiper completed his officer training and was commissioned as an Untersturmführer or second lieutenant, and of course, after going to SS officer school, was thoroughly versed in the anti-Semitic worldview of the SS. He would also join the NSDAP in 1938, contradicting his later contention that he had been an apolitical soldier in World War II. He was, certainly during the war, a fully paid-up Nazi. In June 1938, Peiper was promoted onto the personal staff of Himmler as an adjutant. He became, in fact, Himmler's favorite adjutant and accompanied him everywhere he went. During the invasion of Poland, Peiper was with Himmler aboard his armoured train, and also sometimes acted as an adjutant to Hitler during his front visits or at Führer headquarters. Peiper first saw the true face of the regime he served on the 20th of September 1939, when he was present alongside Himmler at the execution of 20 Polish socialist leaders by ethnic German defense militia, commanded by SS officer Ludolf von Alvensleben. On the 13th of December 1939, Peiper accompanied Himmler to a village near Poznan in Poland and witnessed the gassing of mentally ill patients in a hospital there. This was part of the Aktion T4 euthanasia program. He also accompanied Himmler on inspection tours of concentration camps, including Neuengamme and Sachsenhausen, and in 1940 Buchenwald and Flossenburg, including witnessing another Aktion T4 gassing demonstration. All of this information is often lost in the retelling of Peiper's SS service, with most people concentrating on Kampfgruppe Peiper and his activities in the Ardennes Offensive in 1944. But these early activities should be weighed against his later military service in action. The man knew what he was fighting for and for whom. During the invasion of France in May 1940, Peiper was released to get some combat service, commanding a platoon of the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, the most prestigious unit in the SS, serving in the motorized regiment. For his actions in capturing a French artillery battery, Peiper was awarded the Iron Cross Second Class and promoted to Hauptsturmführer or captain. Soon after, Peiper was awarded the Iron Cross First Class. Then, in June, he returned to his post as Himmler's adjutant. In the months before the German invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa in June 1941, Peiper accompanied Himmler and his staff to Poland, Norway, Austria, and Greece, inspecting army and SS units and so on. He then took part in an SS conference during which Himmler outlined his plan to exterminate 30 million Slavs. Once the invasion was launched, Himmler and Peiper visited Einsatzgruppen mobile death squads operating behind the German front line, including watching actual mass executions. One of Peiper's jobs was to deliver the daily death counts to Himmler, giving him intimate knowledge of the SS murder machine operating on the Eastern Front. Peiper was next assigned to the 1st SS Panzer Division LSSAH. He commanded a tank company and was noted for his aggressive leadership style and for the high casualties among his own men. The LSSAH also assisted the Einsatzgruppen in murdering Soviet Jews, commissars, Red Army prisoners of war, and partisans. In May 1942, the LSSAH was sent to France, Peiper becoming a battalion commander. Back east in January 1943, Peiper's unit was highly commended during the Third Battle of Kharkov, rescuing a trapped German infantry division. At the conclusion of the battle, Peiper's troops discovered that a small SS medical detachment of 25 men, who had been left behind in the village of Krasnoya Polyana, had been killed, and some of them mutilated by Soviet forces. Peiper ordered the village burned down and all of the inhabitants shot or burned alive, earning Peiper's unit the nickname of the Blowtorch Battalion. Awarded the German Cross in Gold for his actions at Kharkov, Peiper was involved in further massacres, the village of Yefremovka and also at Semyonovka. LSSAH troops under his command killed 872 men, women and children, including burning alive 240 people in the Yefremovka church. Peiper received the Knight's Cross on the 9th of March 1943. The German press was quick at Himmler's urgings to laud Peiper as the ideal German officer, handsome, brave, and a born leader. This Nazi propaganda actually had a very long life and has contributed to how Peiper was viewed post-war and indeed even today in certain quarters, an apolitical soldier of exceptional abilities who happened to be in the Waffen-SS. The reality was, as we have seen, a little different. After fighting at the Battle of Kursk in July 1943, the LSSAH was transferred to northern Italy, taking part in Operation Axa, the German military takeover of Italy following Mussolini's fall from power. Shortly after this, Peiper was involved again in a massacre. During a gun battle with Italian partisans at Boves in Piedmont, the 19th of September 1943, during which 2 SS men were taken prisoner and 1 was killed, Peiper threatened to destroy the village if the men were not released immediately. After desperate negotiations, the SS men were indeed set free, but Peiper nonetheless ordered his men to kill 24 Italian men from the village in retaliation. 1 woman was also murdered. Peiper's command methods have been questioned, particularly his poor use of tactics and his apparent disinterest in German casualties. During battles at the Ukrainian city of Zhytomyr, Peiper commanded the 1st SS Panzer Regiment. His aggressive way of leading led to very heavy casualties amongst his own men. He also caused so much damage to his equipment that he was transferred to a staff position immediately afterwards. However, on the 27th of January 1944, Hitler awarded Peiper the Oakleaves to his Knight's Cross. Redeployed to the west, the LSSAH saw extensive action in the Battle of Normandy. The division would lose every tank it possessed and 25% of its men during the weeks of fighting there. And during the fighting around the city of Caen, Peiper suffered a nervous breakdown and was evacuated and hospitalized for a long time, rejoining his regiment in October 1944. Peiper is of course most famous for the activities in the Ardennes during the Battle of the Bulge, when his battle group, Kampfgruppe Peiper, led the 6th Panzer Army's attack, making the deepest penetration in that sector until surrounded the village of L'Aglaise in Belgium. Forced to abandon all of his vehicles and tanks, Peiper and 717 of his men, out of 3,000 who started off, managed to fight their way out of the encirclement and get back to German lines. During the Kampfgruppe's advance on the 17th of December 1944, a convoy of 30 US vehicles were confronted at the Bonnet crossroads near the village of Malmedy. Over 100 Americans were taken prisoner, and once Peiper and the Panzer Regiment moved off, firing broke out, the US prisoners then being under guard by SS pioneers of the LSSAH, and 84 US soldiers were killed by the SS. This is the Malmedy massacre. The cause of the firing has never been fully established. However, men under Peiper's command killed many US prisoners of war in the Ardennes, and also lots of Belgian civilians. It has been estimated that Kampfgruppe Peiper murdered 362 US POWs and 111 civilians during its advance. Hitler awarded Peiper the swords to his Knight's Cross in January 1945. Towards war's end, Peiper fought in Hungary until, on the 1st of May 1945, then in Austria, the LSSAH was informed of Hitler's death the day before in Berlin. Keen for obvious reasons not to surrender to the Soviet Union, Peiper was ordered to surrender his unit to US forces on the 8th of May. However, Peiper had no reason to be taken prisoner by the Americans either, and he made himself scarce and walked all the way home, but was apprehended by US military police on the 22nd of May 1945. The US Army investigated the Malmedy massacre in great detail and scoured POW camps to find LSSAH soldiers who had been involved, and Peiper and many of his subordinates were placed on trial for war crimes. Peiper was a devout Nazi. Under US interrogation in July 1945, when asked about the Poles and Jews during the war, Peiper became angry and said the following, quote, "All Jews are bad and all Poles are bad. We have just cleansed our society and moved these people into camps, and you let them loose," end quote.
Well, how close were you to these people that were firing from the wind?
Wie weit waren Sie von diesen Leuten, die aus den Fenstern geschossen haben, entfernt?
Ich bin direkt unterhalb dieser Häuser vorbeigefahren.
I was driving right past these houses underneath the windows.
Habe mehrmals meinen Kopf herunternehmen müssen.
I had to get my head down several times.
Und habe diese Leute schießen sehen.
And I saw these people shoot.
Did you see the people?
Haben Sie die Leute gesehen?
Jawohl.
Yes.
How were they dressed?
Wie waren die angezogen?
Das waren Leute, die man nur kurz sehen konnte. Sie trugen meistens eine Zivilkopfbedeckung und einen Zivilrock. Einzelheiten kann ich selbstverständlich nicht angeben.
These were people which one could see only for an instant. They usually wore civilian headgear and a civilian jacket, but of course I can't give any details.
Did you see any 80-year-old women firing at you from the windows there in Bullingen?
Haben Sie aus den Fenstern gesehen, wie irgendwelche 80 Jahre alte Frauen aus den Fenstern geschossen haben?
Ich habe in diesen kurzen Augenblicken keine Zeit gehabt, das Alter der Schützen zu bestimmen.
In those short moments I had no occasion to determine the age of the persons firing.
Well, did you see any 1-year-old babies firing at you from the windows in Bullingen?
Haben Sie irgendwelche 1 Jahre alte Babys gesehen, die aus den Fenstern in Büllingen geschossen haben?
Nein, ich habe auch selbst in Russland keine einjährigen Babys gesehen, die geschossen haben.
No, not even in Russia did I see any 1-year-old babies firing.
Peiper took command responsibility for the crimes committed by his men. Tried at Dachau alongside 73 other defendants, including Peiper's old 6th Panzer Army commander Sepp Dietrich, Dietrich's chief of staff Fritz Kramer, and the 1st SS Panzer Corps commander Hermann Priess. Peiper and the others were sentenced on the 16th of July 1946. The American military tribunal was determined to extract justice for their dead soldiers at Malmedy. Peiper was found guilty of war crimes and sentenced to death. He had a slight smile on his face as he received the sentence and as he marched away from the court. In March 1948, the U.S. authorities reviewed 43 death sentences of the 74 men who were tried at Dachau and upheld 12, including Peiper's. The rest were commuted to terms of imprisonment. However, in 1951, Peiper's death sentence was also commuted after some pressure from various high-level sources, and instead he was given 35 years imprisonment. However, Peiper was suddenly released early on the 22nd of December 1956. Searching for work, he used the Waffen-SS Mutual Aid Community Organization, or HIAG, to help find such work. Peiper going to work for Porsche in Stuttgart in 1957 as a salesman. He would keep in contact with his SS subordinates and superior officers and attended many reunions of Knight's Cross holders, though he